Jean? Oh, good, good, good. Okay. Because we had some audio problems in the last one. But everybody should move up closer so we can see all of you easier. I'm only kidding, Kim. Okay, I'm going to get started because we have a lot to cover. David, Chris, Bryn, and myself have information we want to share. So basically, I want to start and dig in with 2024 because the start of a new year is always a great time to do a review of the prior year. And so we have a number of challenges that I think all of you know that we faced during 2024. If you read the cruise news, we were trying to keep you informed every month of the year about what we were working on, what obstacles we saw, and how we hope to overcome them. But we also had a number of victories that we're going to share and review. So first, it really comes down to three primary challenges. And again, these shouldn't be new to you. Staffing shortages. We're not the only one in the country that's experiencing staffing shortages. It's becoming very common, especially in healthcare. Rising costs and fees, our costs of doing what we do, the operations day to day, have increased exponentially. And so, of course, that's a concern because, as you know, we actually have resident increases every year, and we can't pass all of the increases that we experience in the operation onto them. And then third, of course, is census. And we say census is a challenge because we're in the business of operating at all levels of care, and that's how we generate revenue from the census that is in independent living, personal care, and nursing care. And census, of course, refers to occupancy. So when our occupancy is low, it means we're not generating enough revenue for the operation. When it's strong, obviously, revenue is good. So that census will always be a concern. And of course, we want to work on staffing shortages and also controlling costs. So the first challenge really with staffing shortages is that that whenever we can't fill shifts, especially in nursing care or personal care, we had been relying on contract agency to the tune where it was costing us over $1 million 1 year of bringing in contract workers to fill shifts. And that isn't good for our operation because contract agency workers don't know our residents like we know them. And we're paying a huge markup to the contract agency company that we're getting the workers through. So it's not a win-win, and the goal, of course, in 2024 was really to focus on reducing with the goal of eliminating contract agency. Increased costs, which is our challenge number 2. From 2020 to 2024, we saw a 26% increase in the cost of food. And of course, food plays a major role in our operation. Just ask Matt and Francine, right? So 26% is significant. We also had a 26% increase in the cost of labor, our workforce, what we have to pay people to work here. And then we had a 39% increase in costs from 2020 to 2024 in the healthcare costs, what it costs us to provide care and services to the residents that we serve. So if you can imagine passing these percent increases on to residents, what that would mean to our operation, we wouldn't get anybody to move in here. Nobody could afford to stay living here. So it was really about, making sure we have high census, which is our third challenge. And we put 90% up there because when we're operating at 90% census in all levels of care, that's a pretty strong financial threshold that we want to always strive to be at. And so these three areas really became our focus areas in the year 2024. And basically, we actually had to creatively think of a lot of solutions around staffing, around controlling expenses, around census, to make sure that we ended the year on a good note. So I want to start by talking about the victories that we had, especially as it relates to the first challenge in staffing. We were able to work with human resources daily, nightly, weekends, whatever it took, to come up with all kinds of new and innovative ways to attract and retain staff. Some of those things included the obvious things like increasing wages, making market adjustments, as HR is often competitively benchmarking what we're paying people who work here with what our competitors are paying. But we also developed some new shifts, and they were designed really to attract hard-to-fill shifts, workers for hard-to-fill shifts. So just as one example, we came up with a new shift for CNA where we created 2 12-hour shifts over a weekend, Saturday and Sunday, combined it with an 8-hour shift on a weekday, and then paid a premium for that shift for the CNAs who were interested in working. And that proved to be very positive. And then, of course, UKG, which we're all familiar with now and love, right, Kara? That brought with it flexible scheduling. So we really have high hopes that that's going to make a tremendous difference and already has made a difference. Our second victory really came in terms of leverage, what we call leveraged buying power. And that was using the affiliation between Morningstar Living and Moravian Manor Communities to really look at what we're both in the same business, we're both buying the same products and services and goods, and how can we leverage that to get better buying power, combining our two needs for our two communities and putting it together and going out to market vendors and asking them to give us better pricing. We were able to achieve that in health insurance, also in software, and we did a lot of software innovations this year in our operations. And we also did it in consulting services, where we brought in a consulting service to work at both organizations in Lidditz and in Nazareth to work on looking at the service efficiencies in our healthcare operations and therapy services. Our third victory was really what started the whole affiliation, and that was the concept of bringing together the two affiliates and sharing talent across both organizations. David Swartley started it all with becoming president and CEO over both, where he was in Lidditz at Moravian Manor Communities, but also over Morningstar Living. So we're not paying two presidents and CEOs. Likewise with Chris Hunt. Chris Hunt, our Chief Financial Officer, is now providing financial oversight and runs the business offices at both organizations. And Bryn Lee, our Chief Human Resources Officer, does the same in human resources. And then most recently, in the 2024, we brought the same to Kara's position. You know Kara. She is our compliance officer, and they really needed help and assistance at Moravian Manor Communities, and she's now working there between both organizations to help build their compliance program. Victory number 4 really extended to a number of different software platforms. While we launched UKG in 2023, it was the last quarter of 2023, we really didn't get a lot of other modules other than payroll up and running until 2024. And those modules will continue to evolve and make us all even more productive and efficient in what we're doing. But we did roll out quite a few in 2024. We also improved our healthcare management software platform, which is called Point Click Care. So when we did our assessment that I was referring to earlier, that company identified some key areas where they felt that we could improve the way we were doing things with regards to the documentation of getting documentation signed by resident family members, POAs, et cetera, also in our infection prevention and control, and also in some of the other what we call performance insights that gives us insight into some of the healthcare operations where we're getting information from for our residents. And then I think you know that we also launched and rolled out Office 365, which was a major endeavor here. IT handled that flawlessly, and that is now going on right now at Moravian Manor Communities in Lidditz as well. And then in Chris's area, he brought and launched a whole package of software called Sage, which really brought the functions of accounting, invoicing, cash flow, and financial reporting together under one umbrella software, again, for more increased productivity and efficiencies. The victory number 5 really speaks to census. Census is really everybody's business here. It's not just the sales and marketing team's role, not just healthcare operations, because we all need each other to be able to make accommodations available, ready for residents who want to move in. And so I know healthcare, personal care, sales and marketing works with environmental services every single day of the week. To make sure that they are up on getting accommodations ready so we can move people in. And there was a great influx of new residents during 2024. We were maintaining 94% for most of the year in healthcare operations, which was fantastic. Same in personal care, over 90%, that 90% threshold. And then in residential living at 90% as well. And when we took this measurement, which was really an average across the year, we didn't even factor in residents that actually paid for their accommodations in residential living with a delayed move-in for April this year. I think we have 8 parties that were moving in the second quarter of 2025, but paid for their entrance fee, the initial investment that they need to pay to move in 2024. And then, of course, we finally, after many years of talking about doing renovations in Bethany House, we finally got renovations underway in September of 2024. And that, again, was designed to add private showers to half of the Bethany House accommodations. The entire Bethany neighborhood is being renovated 100%. But only 50% of the individual suites in Bethany are actually getting showers for the residents who live there. And that's because we want to maintain flexibility over the years in terms of how will we use Bethany over the long term? Could we repurpose some of it for another need that we have? And then, of course, Christine is here. Christine is our sales manager at Heritage Village, and she's been with the project since we started doing pre-sales in 2016, right, Christine? And basically, you know, phase by phase, we brought construction in, we built homes, we occupied them, we refinanced, and we refinanced, and we refinanced to get through every phase. And I'm really happy to report by the end of 2024, Phase 6, the last and final stretch of Heritage Village, was pre-sold. And so now we're actually finishing the construction of Phase 6 homes, and when Heritage Village is complete, there will be a total of 126 accommodations there. But right now, we're actually working on some pre-sales, believe it or not. People that moved in since 2018, when the first move-ins occurred. Some of those residents are transitioning to Moravian Hall Square, and we're actually reselling some of the original Heritage Village accommodations. And then we had a victory in Senior Solutions. Senior Solutions, you know, is our home care operation. When we bought this company in 2012, it was really our goal to do a break even because the home care business is very difficult to run, very difficult to manage, because really your workforce is made up of people who want to tell you when they want to work. And so managing a client's needs who has, you know, a certain need on certain days of the week and finding people that are willing to do that is an ongoing battle. So it wasn't until 2024 that we were actually able to realize a profit in operating Senior Solutions. And that came through a nice expense savings that Chris Hunt worked on with our director, Kelly Wilson, in terms of insurance savings. And it also is a result of the increased client hours we were able to bill for in 2024. And then, of course, you're all familiar with the Morningstar Living Foundation, the fundraising arm of Morningstar Living. And the Harvest of Friends is one of the most important events that the foundation runs every year. And I say that because The funds generated from the Harvest of Friends are specifically earmarked for benevolent care. And benevolent care is for our residents who have invested in our community but have lived here, and thanks to all of you who provide for their care, food, services, they have lived here so long they outlive their ability to pay. We just lost last year a resident, an original resident who moved in 1988. She lived here, and believe me, I doubt that when she moved in 1988 that she ever thought she was going to live in retirement for 35 years. And so she just passed away, sadly, but and I'm not saying she was on benevolent care, but that's what our benevolent care is for. It's for our residents who invest in our community and outlive their ability to pay. And so, I'm sorry, this year we had a banner year. We raised $80,000 from that one evening's event. And that came through sponsorships, an auction, and also participation in the actual event and paying for a dinner ticket to attend. And then we had another victory. Before the end of the year, somehow magically, Bryn was able to launch PTO at Morningstar Living. And it was our goal to do that because we wanted to give you the flexibility of controlling your bucket of vacation and sick time. Whereas, you know, the traditional way of giving you X number of sick days, X number of vacation time, now it's all in your hands and you can use it the way you want to. So we were really happy to be able to get that in 2024. And then, of course, there were a number of stellar victories as it relates to awards and recognitions. We have historically been able to achieve and maintain a 5-star rating from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, and that is a challenge. I know Kara can speak to it probably better than anybody else because it all comes down to regulations and quality measures and staffing. So every single day we have to report what our staffing is and how much care per hour each resident is getting from us. So this is really becoming harder, more hard to achieve, but we were able to do that. And not only that, we also received a designation from the U.S. News and World Report about being a best nursing home graded on our short-term rehabilitation. And on top of that, we also, in 2024, earned for 2025 a best nursing home rating for long-term care, which we hadn't seen in, I'm going to say, close to a decade for long-term care. We were getting it for short-term rehab, but weren't getting it for long-term care, so that was a real coup. And then Newsweek, which actually also rates nursing homes, had a category that they just started this year for nursing homes that have under 100 accommodations in skilled care. And because we have 61 accommodations that are licensed in nursing care, we now fit into this category. And we were rated #1 by Newsweek. And not only were we rated a #1 nursing home, we were rated as the #1 nursing home in Pennsylvania. So again, it was a major accomplishment. And then Galilee House, you know, we all love Galilee House. We love the neighborhood, the environment, the interaction with the residents between the caregivers and the residents and their family members. And that doesn't happen by accident. That's a process, it's an environment, and it's programming that is judged by the Alzheimer's Foundation of America. And when you get judged, very few of us that have memory support care in the region get this designation from the Alzheimer's Foundation of America, which is the distinction of excellence in the care and programming that we provide residents there. So those victories were sensational. We had a lot of challenges we were working on. We had to rebuild our nursing care staff practically, as Kim well knows, and that's an ongoing situation that we deal with. But we went through a lot during the months, I'm going to say April to August, September. It was really a struggle, but you did it. You made it happen. And then let us not forget how we started 2024. We got notification from our industry association, Leading Age PA, that Charles Hildenbrandt was voted the #1 caregiver, direct caregiver in the state of Pennsylvania. And that's how we started the year. We still have his poster, I believe, right, in nursing care, Kim, and everybody salutes that poster every day when they go by it. But you know, what a thrill, what an exciting way to start the year. So long story short, we did have our challenges, but you can see the victories that I just shared with you far outweigh the challenges, and that's a credit to you. It's your dedication, your hard work, your commitment that really made it happen. And 2025 isn't going to be any less challenging. You're going to hear from David later about our strategic plans and visions for Unitas communities. We want to grow the organization. We want to serve more people. And we really need your help and commitment to do that. But thank you for 2024. And let's all strive to achieve more in 2025. I'm going to turn it over to Chris now, who's going to give you the financials associated with some of the results.
All right, thank you, Sue. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I'm going to spend a few minutes just talking about sort of our financial results through November. Hopefully what you'll see is really these are reflective of a lot of the things Sue talked about earlier. You know, all of those operating decisions, all of those things we look at, they translate back into the numbers you see in some ways. I think I said in the earlier session, you know, the numbers don't drive the operation drives the numbers. But this is just, you know, showing where we are financially. These are the financial results through November. There's a lot of information that goes into part of the financial results, but what I've tried to do is boil it down to its basics, which is, you know, what's the revenue coming in from all our daily rates, our monthly fees, you know, all our ancillary services. You know, what does it cost to provide all that care, nursing care, personal care, keep up with the grounds, pay for utilities, pay for taxes, pay for food, pay for all the programs, and then what's left after all that's paid for. So what you can see here just through November, and this is everybody, this is Senior Solutions, Morningstar, and the Foundation all combined into these categories. So we've had $27.2 million of revenue or inflow. $26.8 million is what we expected in the budget. So we're about $400,000, a little less than $400,000 better than budget. A lot of that is driven to you know, our census goals and meeting our census goals. In some of our higher levels of care, you know, we have less life care folks in there, which is leading to that positive variance as well. In terms of expenses, $25.6 million of expenses. We budgeted for $26.3, so we're about $700,000 less in expenses there. It's really 2 to 3 things that drive that. One is labor costs. So you heard Sue talk about, you know, some of our focus on labor. Where can we consolidate positions? Where can we be more efficient? We've had positions that are open that haven't been filled, so that contributes to being under budget there, those efforts. And then we are self-insured for health insurance, so when Highmark gets a claim, they turn around to us to look to reimburse them for it. So the cost of those claims are less than what we expected this year. So that can be different. We've had years where, you know, the claim costs are way more than we expected. But those things in general leading to a positive variances on expenses. So what that means is that through the first 11 months, we've netted about net resident revenue, which is the difference between those two, about $1.6 million of positive earnings. We expected about 485, so we're about 1.1 million better than what we expected. Continuing to have a good margin like that allows us to, do a project like Bethany House without having to borrow money for it, to buy new equipment and do some other things and really invest back into resident programs. And having a nice, healthy margin means we're a good, stable company. We want stable cash flows. We want stability, so that, we have residents that are moving in, as Sue mentioned, that could be here 35 years, and we want to be here every step of the way to provide all the care we promised. So to do that, we need to be stable. And, so I guess if you take away anything from this is that, we're a good, stable company. We've got good cash flows. During COVID, everybody was strained, including us. It put a lot of providers out of business. We continue to make our way through it, and we continue to get better. So, anyway. So biggest drivers, what we always try to keep an eye on, Sue talked about this in her remarks as well, is where's our census and our various levels of care. We like to be 90% and above. In nursing care, we're operating with about 59 beds. You can see these next slides are about a rolling 12 months of census by month. So you can just sort of see the census pattern here. We were chugging along here at, 57. Last couple months, a little bit of a drop off there as the Bethany House project, kicked in. We're renovating rooms up top. We've got some rooms offline that sit down below it in nursing care. So a little bit of dip there, but still all in all, pretty good occupancy. Up in personal care, we have 86 beds. That encompasses everything: Bethany House, Morningstar Hall, Galilee. Again, you can see pretty good census. We were riding up here. This is somewhat reflective of people moving through the continuum and the Bethany House project. So, we have rooms offline up in Bethany House. But at the same time, the longer residents stay in independent living, they wait to come down, and eventually they move to PC and they're there for a little bit, and then they go to skilled, or they go right to skilled and they skip over PC. So PC, I think, tends to be a little bit more volatile than it was, 20 years ago, because people want to age in place. Lastly, last two things, just in residential living here on this campus, we have 130 units for those who don't know. So that would be all the individual residential living units here, the 4 townstones and the 2 cottages up on the corners. That make a total of 130. And again, you can see, we started, at 120, and we had people move through the continuum, and we fill them back up, and they move through the continuum, and we fill them back up. So being around 90, 92% occupancy, I always say, is good for us because, one, as you have people that want to move in, and when they move in, they pay entrance fees. In order for people to move in, you have to have something that they can move into. So, when you have residents who are interested in 2-bedroom apartments and you only have 1-bedroom apartments, you sort of limit yourself. So, so not necessarily good to be 100% occupied all the time because you don't really have anything to offer new residents. So, again, good solid occupancy there. And lastly, at Heritage Village, Heritage Village continues to fill up. As Sue mentioned, we do have some turnovers in some of the earlier phases, but for the most part, what you're seeing here is continued fill up into phase 5. When all is said and done in phase 6, we'll have 126 units up there, which means we've essentially doubled our independent living units, right? 130 and 126, we've just about doubled those. We have plenty of personal care accommodations, plenty of nursing care accommodations for all of those people. So continuing to build and grow and expand, again, adds to financial strength. And again, good occupancy there as pretty much all the units are pre-sold. Lastly would be contract agency. So, it's been one of our initiatives to continue to look at our use of contract agency. So we started the year here, and you can see we had a good downward trend. Between August we had a pop, and then October, November we had a pop. But still some work to do there. But generally speaking, if you look at sort of this average trend line, it's pointing downward, which is good. It's still going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge into 2025. But we'll still keep watching it, keep an eye on that, and see if we can sort of keep that trend going. Better for us financially, better for us for residents, better for us for staff, all kinds of reasons it's better for us to really try to drive that contract agency use down. So that's my brief financial update. Thank you all for your time, and I'll turn it over to Bryn.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everybody. I want to just briefly share our results from our employee engagement survey. Do you guys remember taking that back in the summer? It was sent out mostly via email, and you had the opportunity to weigh in on how you feel about the organization and as a team member. We did that specifically at that time to guide. We were just embarking on our strategic plan with Unitas, and we needed your input to help guide us with our strategic plan. So we also had some focus groups with some team members. We had focus groups with residents and some community partners as well. So this is what you all said. The overall feedback was that the majority of our staff said they were drawn to their job because of the company's reputation, and they stay because of the mission, people, culture, and leadership. And 3 words that describe Morningstar Living are caring, quality, and friendly. And our top scores include, I know what is expected of me at work. I have the opportunity to do my best at work every day. My supervisor or someone at work seems to care about me as a person. So would we agree those are still our top 3? All right. Well, now we're going to focus a little bit more on the bottom scores because, of course, it's great that our staff feel that their supervisor cares about them and they're doing their best work, but we want to make sure we continue to improve. So these were the bottom scores back then that staff felt like they might not necessarily be getting a recognition. In the last week, I've received recognition for doing good work. In the last 6 months, someone has talked to me about my progress. And in the last year, I've had opportunities at work to learn and grow. So there's definitely a theme here. And I just want to talk a little bit about things that we have in place and things that will be coming in place, hopefully to make these come out of the bottom. First of all, our team member covenant. So the covenant was put in place back in 2017. We have one original member of, or I'll say author of the team member covenant. That's Christine here. Raise your hand, Christine. There she is. There was a few others in the last session that were also part of that project team or that task force. They were commissioned at the same time that they were also, oh, actually, Donna, weren't you in there? Donna, did you help? You wrote this team member covenant too. Okay. Anyway, so so the team member covenant was created at that time by employees. And it was meant to really improve the culture and the way we treat one another and the way we work with one another. So just a few things, because if we're not feeling like we're being recognized on a regular basis, and of course our leaders should be recognizing you, but of course you can all recognize one another, and that really does take some intentionality. But appreciating and encouraging the best in each other is a covenant promise. Celebrate accomplishments, small and large, seeking ways to praise others, and accepting and providing feedback. So that's just a simple reminder. We did sign this covenant at the time. If you want to get your name on there, feel free at the end. We have markers up there. You could sign it. The GPS, that was created. You remember when we overhauled the performance review a number of years ago for all who were here at the time. We got rid of the ratings. No longer were you going to be rated a 1 through 5. We were going to focus more on your strengths. We wanted to be able to leverage those strengths so that you can continue to do the great work that you do. And we wanted to set you up for success, to keep helping you grow and develop. So that's the goal of GPS. We're about 70% compliant, so meaning 70% of our staff who were due for a GPS session got one. The other 30%, they're overdue. So we're going to focus on that to make sure that if you are, if your GPS is outstanding, that you're going to get that in the short time, in the next few months or weeks even. But we're also going to make sure that our guides are trained. We've had new supervisors, new guides, and we want to make sure that everybody understands the goal of GPS and how they can best support you. So there will be training. We are actually in the midst of that training at Moravian Manor Communities. Tomorrow will be session number 2, and it's going incredibly well. So that will be rolled out here as well this spring. And then just as a reminder, this is not new, but we do have educational assistance. So if you're looking to continue to grow, whether it be a certification or a license or an advanced degree, we encourage you to apply for educational assistance. That money is funded through the foundation. So that $80,000 that we brought in through Harvest of Friends and all the other ways we fundraise, much of that goes to the educational assistance. So we want to be able to provide that for you if you're interested. And then we also want to hear from you. So when you have ideas, and I bet you say it all the time, you know, to your coworker, oh, we should do this or we should do that. Take a second and write it down on this card. You could do that. There's boxes throughout the community. You could also go on My Insight, and you could do it electronically. And then we publish those ideas, and if we're planning on taking your idea especially, we'll share your idea and the result of that in the Cruise News. And we also want to hear more about, you know, maybe things have changed. It has been a few months since that survey. So if you have your phone and you want to scan this QR code in, you can do that now while it's up. If you don't, it's also going to be in the February Cruise News, which will be going out on February 1st. And it's only 3 questions. And it's just going to ask you, you know, what more can we do? How more can we recognize you? How can we support you in your career at Morningstar? So we encourage you to fill that out, because that will help further guide us as we plan our programming and continue to work towards a positive culture. We do have our awards day coming up, so this is just, we just want to make sure you're aware that the call for nominations will be coming out on February 1st. So we can't recognize all these wonderful people for their awards if we don't have your nominations. So we may know as a committee who, you know, stands out in our minds, but that's just one fragment. So please get your nominations in if you have coworkers that are really outstanding or funny or safe, and, you know, all these different categories. And we hope you'll plan to come out on that special day as well. We have a great luncheon and music, and it's just such a it's a wonderful day of fellowship with our coworkers. And this is just a snapshot of some other fun things that are going on. I know Francine's planning some fun stuff with the Super Bowl on Friday the 7th. We're going to have a nice special in the cafe, and we could wear our Eagles jerseys. We're going to hold a chili cook-off, so if you have a famous chili that you want to enter, we would encourage you to do that. That should be a lot of fun, where we can taste everybody's chili, and that will be a staff appreciation event as well, where the culinary team will be making chili for us as well. We've got hot dogs for baseball's opening day. We've got Take Your Child to Work Day. That's always a wonderful, special day for the kids who come and for us as team members. And the residents love it too. So that was open last year to your children and your grandchildren. So I hope you'll bring them again this year. All right. And now I'm going to pass this off to David, who's going to talk to us about our strategic plan.
Thank you. First of all, how many people are for Eagles? How many for Kansas City? Oh, Dallas Cowboys? Yeah, it's one way to shut down a group. I get a lot of questions about the strategic plan and really about Unitas Communities. You know, what's going on behind the scenes? What is it about? And so I'm just going to share a couple slides talking about the work that's been done behind the scenes with our board of directors. Last September it was, I believe, right? And we did a day-and-a-half session of planning and just looking into the future, trying to strategize, you know, where we want to, what are our challenges, what do we want to work at moving forward. So some of the first things we talked about, vision and purpose. And when you read these two statements, the one thing that I think pops out to me is that while we have a lot of great real estate here at both campuses, you know, beautiful facilities, top notch, we keep them in A1 shape, which is important, and I think we excel at both campuses at that. It doesn't matter how nice your building is if you don't have good people providing the services, right? I mean, have you ever gone into a store and you feel like you're bothering the person? Yeah, how annoying that is. And that's exactly what we don't want to be here, and we're not. So, it's about the people at the end of the day. We have 5 marathon goals as part of the strategic plan. And I guess at the end of the 3rd session, I can't say strategic any longer, but the S plan. And I'm just going to talk briefly about each one of the 5. So we talk about having the scalable infrastructure. And behind that is the real reason is that when we started the affiliation, there was no intent that it would just be 2 facilities. We want to grow that. We want to have opportunities. And the only way we can really do that is if we have a top-notch accounting package that's running as efficiently as it can at both communities that are in the affiliation now. Same with UKG. UKG is going to be installed at Moravian Manor later this year. And Kara's focusing on compliance. We're looking at IT things, trying to standardize things as much as we can behind the scenes. So when we talk to other partners, potential partners, you can say, here's what we have to offer. We have all these back office solutions for you ready to go. And it's exciting and a lot of work. Of course, AI at the bottom there, artificial intelligence, you hear that word every day, probably several times a day. It's out there. We all use it even when we don't know we're using it. If you have your cell phone, and you ask for directions or something, it's artificial intelligence, right? And we're going to keep building. That's going to keep building and get more and more powerful. The second one up here is, and these are not in order of priority. They're just 5 pillars that the board wants to work at. The staffing crisis. Sue talked a lot about that. Bryn talked about it. Chris talked about it. We never stop talking about it because staffing is short. There's just simply not enough people out there to work at the end of the day. We have 10,000 Americans turning 65 every day. People are retiring. There's not an equivalent number of people replacing those retirees. So it's going to be a continual challenge, and we need to continue to be innovative, thinking of new ideas, and just trying to rethink the way we do things and offer options to be attractive. This is an interesting one. We cracked the code of mid-market housing. We've talked about the continuum of care here. You've seen all the census numbers. We have skilled nursing, personal care, assisted living. We have residential living. That's what they call a life plan community. We provide the entire continuum. Only about 5%, less than 5% of seniors are served by life plan communities. You tend to have a fair amount of funds to get into a community like Moravian Manor or Morningstar Living. It's just the way it is. It's the nature of the beast by all the levels of care. So we'd like to take on the challenge of, could we come up with a mid-market product? It'll probably be another site somewhere, but that's one of the things that our board is interested in terms of serving a broader bandwidth of socioeconomic levels of seniors. And this will be a fun one, but challenging. This is the harmonizing the relationship between skilled care and residential living is really where's that sweet spot with our care, number of beds, how we provide it. The reality is right now in the United States, there are nursing homes closing almost every week. Standalone nursing homes is almost an impossible business, and that's why we have the continuum. It helps diversify our revenue flow. This right here, we have to get right. I mean, we're planning to provide this. This is a promise we have to our residents, but we have to get it right. What's the suite number? Here in Nazareth, we're actually in a little better shape than we are in Lidditz because we've always had fewer beds, nursing skilled beds here. We're licensed for 61. At one time in Lidditz, we were licensed for 130. We're licensed for 119. We only staff 86 right now, and we have a whole empty unit that we don't know what to do with. And so those are some of the challenges we have in Lidditz. However, all of our rooms in Lidditz are private, and that's one thing that we know we have to work toward down here as well. Our purpose attracts residents, employees, partners, and board members. Sue Cap's going to be leading a task force on this in terms of how do we build out the Unitas brand? What does that mean? How do we use it? It's so behind the scenes now, most people hardly know about it. And we don't want to lose our individual facility brands, but how do we incorporate the Unitas brand in part of it as well? And just become, this is where people want to be. This is where people want to be. I get a lot of questions about what's happening in Lidditz. And so I have a couple of slides just to briefly give you an update. We are in Lidditz, we're celebrating 50 years of service. Moravian Manor Communities opened up in January of 1975. I started in 1991. You can see what many years working in senior health care does to a person. Chris asked a question that actually ties in perfectly with the presentation. He looked at this picture and he asked me, David, he said, what are you doing there? I have no idea. It looks important though. I was studying the Bible. No, I think it's indicative though. I was thinking back when I started at Moravian Manor in 1991. We were all excited. The staff was all excited there because we had just gotten our first fax machine. Okay, there were no computers. There were no cell phones. If you left the office for lunch or something, you'd get a little red note on your desk while you were out, call so-and-so. It's just a totally different world. And I think it speaks to the importance of having a board, having a leadership team, having a management team that's always thinking forward. Because if we stayed stuck in this, we would be out of business, right? It just wouldn't work. It's kind of like remaining an Eagles fan for your whole life. Sorry, Francine. Just a couple of shots of the campuses. Interestingly enough, we have two separate campuses in Lidditz, just like we do here in Nazareth, almost developed at the same time. I've always found it just incredible that two separate boards operating totally separate almost had an identical plan at two different locations. So this is our newer campus called Warwick Woodlands. It's 72 acres. It's not fully developed yet. We've built 170. We built all the carriage homes at the south end of the campus. We've built a 54-unit apartment building. We partnered with Community Basics, trying to broaden our service line. They're affordable housing, not-for-profit in Lancaster City. This is a 62-unit, age 62 and up, affordable housing apartment building. Right now, Chris and I have been talking with bond underwriters. We're trying to figure out how we can get started on this middle section here, which is yet to be developed. But it's a beautiful campus. We have our Founders Campus, which would be the equivalent of the Moravian Hall Square campus. This is about 22 acres. All of our care areas, nursing, personal care is all in this area. We have cottages here, some apartments here and here, townhomes over here. And you can see kind of the layout here. We have 86 skilled beds. So we have more skilled beds in Lidditz than here. We have fewer personal care beds in Lidditz than here. So it kind of balances it out. This is just a picture of the Woods apartment building at night. It's a lovely building. This is a public street here. This is an Owl's Nest restaurant. That's been a real hit, and our next building will look something like that, but it's yet to be designed. And this is just a picture of some residents in front of one of the carriage homes. This is not a protest. This is when they came out to show solidarity with our staff during the pandemic. You'll see they all have masks on, and I think the signs are supportive. I can't read them. I'm assuming they are. But thank you for your support. I'm going to turn it back over to Bryn. Oh, one more comment on this. We have special events too. We have an engaging community dinner in the fall each year, and we bring in a special speaker. This year it was, in 24, it was Scott Hamilton, the skater, Olympic skater, and he was actually just an excellent speaker as well. So it's just the parallels are uncanny, and if you ever have a chance to come to Lidditz, we're trying to get some more cross-pollination as the years go by here. So thank you again. Bryn, all yours.
All right, well, before we conclude, we want to draw your names for our winners. We have two $25 gift cards that we want to raffle off. And then we do have an exciting grand prize. It's an Apple Watch. And we're going to draw that for the whole day's worth of attendees. So there'll be one winner. But we do have two gift cards. And Jenny, I'll pick you, Reed, because I can't see. All right, is this one? Oh, two. Don't peek. I can't see, so Marisol. Woohoo! I have a theory on this. It's always the last entry, right? It is. I've seen it so many times. Okay. We check it up. All right. This is going to be the first person who arrived. All right.
Michelle Machado.
Oh my gosh, you were the first person. I was the first person. That's so funny. All right, and we're going to stick your names back in for the grand prize too. All right, so thank you all for coming. Appreciate your time. Have a great day.